that a First Amendment thing? And if you were a Jewish student in this guy's class, any student, but a Jewish student, how would you feel that this maniac's walking around with scissors planning this, that he's going to cut down these posters put up of children that are held captive by Hamas? What's with the scissors, Doc? That's what I'd like to know.
But I'm so confused. Aren't these things like stapled to things?
Yeah, or sometimes they're taped. So I don't know.
So
Maybe this guy's a poor
scissors for?
pathologist. He's bringing scissors
What's he, like cut them in half so you can tear them?
No, he
It's
wants to
like
take
an extra step, man.
He's got more hatred. He wants to cut them in half.
That's what it is. Oh,
Yeah. He wants to surgically. That's the first question I would ask. Why the hell the scissors, you clown? Sorry about that, you Dr. Clown. That's the question I'd like to have answered here. Maybe he'll pick up on this and tell us. And if he says it's not true, that it's not him, well, then we'd love to know that and clear his name. I just want to know about the scissors.
Can you back up a sec? This is a professor?
He's a professor and a doctor.
What?
Imagine if this guy is your doctor. He's a pathologist, though. So I don't think he has too many complaints that we can tell. Now, wait a minute. If he's a pathologist, he might be a pathologist working with the city of Philadelphia or some state. See who he works with.
Isn't a pathologist a liar?
No, a pathologist is someone who works with the cause of death.
Pathological liar.
So here's the thing. His name is spelled Alghamdi. If he works with the city of Philadelphia or any government public agency, well, let's find out where he works. And then let's call them and ask them.
Send them a bunch of scissors.
What do they have to say? Yes, or I can say, we're going to have 5,000 people send you a pair of scissors.
There's a show on Fox called Firefly, and it's a protest. A bunch of fans, when they canceled the show, sent like just buckets of peanuts as a reference to the show. It's a bunch of scissors.
We've done stuff like that, tea bag stuff over the years to people. I want to know, see if you can find out where he works, and maybe we'll give them a call during the course of it and ask them to come on and explain why this guy's bringing scissors and ripping down posters.
I think he's just a Penn Medicine straight up physician.
Well, it says he's a pathologist. I'm reading right here. It says he's a physician board certified.
It says he's in the Department of Pathology, Laboratory Medicine.
Okay.
My question is, does he take on Jewish patients? Does he treat them any differently?
Yes, exactly right. So he just teaches pathology. He's a doctor, though.
Well, you can practice at the Penn Medicine facility.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what.
I mean, Penn's going to have to answer if we get this going here of this guy, and maybe the Jewish groups ought to cause too and asked. Maybe they wouldn't want anyone Jewish to be examined by this guy in the Department of Pathology. I wouldn't. I don't want this guy to be anywhere near. But bringing scissors to it, this is a new level of idiocy. All right, we'll continue to probe this a little bit more with the doctor. You can always hit me with an email, whatever, or tell Dan. If you have any information on this guy, we'd like to talk with him. All right, now, today, Election Day. I will talk a lot today about, finally, we don't have the manifesto of the Nashville trans shooter. I even hate to use that term. It allows these maniacs to seem grander than they are. And look, when these people go off and engage in this, they're both irrational, but evil, because I think they know they're killing people. This person did know they were going to kill people. They wanted to kill as many as they possibly could. We don't have the full manifestos and other videos because of these people in Nashville who don't like the narrative and won't put them out. But what we do have, I'll say this. The Nashville trans shooter, if this is accurate, they're not denying it. They're not saying it is not the work of the shooter, but they won't confirm it. They're still doing this nonsense. But if this is what I believe it, this is a perfect student. Couldn't spell white privilege, but certainly murdered people because of white privilege. Now that is the new education system. I can't spell privilege, but I know white privilege, and apparently hated the finely pressed khakis of those that went to the school. The khakis. What's with the khakis? I hate the khakis too. I got to
Whoa, hold on. Why?
I can't stand that look.
Are we talking khaki shorts or khaki pants too?
the pants. The shorts might be okay.
What are you wearing on the golf course?
No, well, shorts.
Khaki, like khaki colored shorts, though?
Yeah, that's,
So you'll wear khaki colored golf shorts, but you're against the khaki shorts.
I don't think I would wear khaki color, though. I have other color, but anyhow.
Wait, your jacket's almost khaki.
No, it's not. This is a fine
YouTube.com/@DomShow.
Sweet. By the way, notice his shirt today. It's my business. Make sure I told Ro that when I left.
Yeah, YouTube.com/@1210WPHT. Go like and subscribe.
Back to the khakis. I particularly can't stand it when guys wear a pair of khakis with a dress jacket. You can't be wearing khakis with that.
Wait, it looks nice.
That's Thurston Howell.
Khakis with a brown belt, a blue jacket.
Yeah, that's Thurston Howell III. It's like some tutting.
Boat shoes.
Yeah. Well, the boat shoes I'm into now, but not the.
Oh, you are.
Not the khakis.
How about the Hey Dudes? You like the Hey Dudes?
Yes, that's what mine is.
Okay. Yeah, you like the. Oh, you got a pair.
They're
like
okay.
That.
But the khaki with the jacket, no, you got to stop it. It's just off. I just can't. It's almost as bad as white pants with it. Anyhow. All right. David O, who's going to be here at 1 o'clock today. Now, David O has run a very good campaign, as he told us early on what he did. By the way, I voted today already. And where I vote, the two observations, the machine creaks, even though it's touchscreen. Every time I hit a Republican, it's like, oh, we haven't been hit. Don't hit us. It's a fresh.
It's like for nostalgia's sake.
I see a fresh picture here, and I'm hitting Carluccio. Oh, that hasn't been hit around here. And there was. Now, this is a disturbing sign. The Working Families Party had not one, but two representatives there. And they wanted to fill me on Kendra Brooks. I'm not the type of guy that says, you got to be kidding me. Do I look like I'm going to vote for Kendra Brooks?
Yeah, tell me about Kendra Brooks. That's exactly what
I almost was going to do it. But, look, they're out there and they're doing their thing. And I just thought, well, I'm not interested. In fact, I oppose them. Have a nice day. I don't believe in, hectoring them there.
The Working Families Party, were they handing out waters or anything?
Well, I should have asked that. So is this where you can be smart and say, well, is this where I get something for nothing?
Yeah, right.
Or I should have said, well, tell me, can we really get to take the money completely away from the police? It was just a young woman doing it. If it had been somebody more aggressive, then I would have done that.
What percentage of that party do you think are just, kids coming right out of college that are just
a great number?
Yeah,
they're all fired
like 80% plus.
Yeah. In fact, and I thought I printed it, but I got to grab it here. A story today that RFK Jr. It's on media. Maybe you can print it. I thought I printed it. RFK Jr. is beating between those under the age of 40. Was it 45 or 40? Let's say 45.
Under 45. Yes, I got it.
Under 45, he's murdering Trump and Biden in the swing states, in the critical states. Now, I'm not sure if they'll even get on the ballot there, but this proves my point about this guy.
So this is at a big New York Times Siena College poll. It shows that an average of data gathered from Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Wisconsin, Kennedy has 34% support base with voters aged 18 to 29. Also 31% with 30 to 44-year-old voters. Do you want Trump's numbers? Because I have those as well.
So it's under 45. He's going crazy, which proves my point that this is all craziness. People in that age group want something fresh. It's new. Cockamamie that he's putting there. He's a real threat. I think he's more of a threat still by a hair to Biden, but I got to see the numbers here to see if that's the case. That's an astounding percentage. That's the highest any third party, because all those other states, they don't matter. Who cares what he gets in California? We know how it's going to go. It doesn't matter. What matters is what he gets in these swing states. I have to get the breakdown, see what he gets in Pennsylvania. But
you think there's a crossover between Working Family Party and RFK supporters?
He's not quite like that. So, but yeah, this idea, loving conspiracy, wanting something radical, something different in that regard. Yeah, it's out there. It's sad to me that we're seeing this play out. Really sad. All right, so David O, though, who'll be here at 1 today, National Review. He goes after the Philadelphia Republican Party. Let me tell you why he's right. Candidate for mayor, David O. He has cobbled together over the 10, 12, 14 years I've known him he must do 200 events a year of all these smaller groups, immigrant groups. He's cobbled together maybe 40 to 50,000 of these people who are probably going to vote today. But the Republican Party in Philadelphia and the Vince Fennerty guy can come on. He can come in studio. We'll have it out. They're the reason why. Look, the Democrats, we get it in Philadelphia. It's in the water to vote Democrat. But the Republican leadership, not good. So David O. Dan says to the National Review, most of the people in this city, they hate Republicans. And if you just say free lunch, they're going to vote for you, meaning Democrats. He also said, quote, we have two white guys that nobody ever heard of that are not going into any of the city's diverse communities until like maybe 3 weeks ago, and that doesn't work. All right?
Right on the money.
I think he is. Yeah, you got to face facts. Look, I am not going to come out Republican. I mean, isn't that part of the Trump movement? Isn't that part of what the Trump movement is about? Pushing back against these establishment Republicans. And in Philadelphia, the Vince Fennertys of the world and these other clowns, that's what they are. They sit around all day hacking up the crumbs that the Democrats are left over. So Fennerty is quoted here, well, I got 120,000 Republicans. Sure you do, buddy. Sure you do. And he says if they lose both at-large seats today, that could be the end of the Republican Party in Philadelphia. No, what I hope happens, if they do, is that David O. then becomes the chairman. And then the Republican Party might be like a phoenix. They might be somewhat viable. My God, though. So he's here at 1 o'clock. You'll hear from him directly. Does that stun you? Dom, you're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to say Vince Fennerty. No. Vince Fennerty is like Mitch McConnell on McConnell's worst day. That's what Vince Fennerty's like. No offense to the problems Mitch McConnell's had recently. That's you, Vince. My God. Well, how do you expect him to win? Well, I expect him to win by not pretending. That's how you win. And these guys are never going to win anything in Philadelphia. They might not have a council seat after 8 o'clock tonight. All right, side question today. We had several that we were working up, but we noticed we got a great guest who's written some of the best books about what Israelis really are all about. He's got a new one coming out. Dan Senior, former Defense Department official. He's here at 12:30. And of course, Dan Borowski, who's written none of those books about
absolutely
great
nothing
producers.
To his name.
All right. So we're asking for all time and real or fictional. Remember, it can be fictional at the end of your call. All time Dans, real or fictional,
so we'll
Daniels.
We'll take will we take the last name, Daniel's last name?
Yeah, we can take that too. Daniels, Dan, and Dan.
I like it.
Yeah, so I'll take Lieutenant Dan off because I know that is probably the number one answer. Or Daniel in the Lion's Den. That's one of my all-time favorites. That's like being in talk radio and being in Philadelphia every day. That's Daniel in the Lion's Den. So, Dan, how about yours?
I'm going to take a all-time great song written by Kenny Loggins off. How about Danny's song?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Danny's song.
Okay.
Behind us, you hear some Dan Fogelberg with Same Old Lang Syne. And I just butchered that. Wow, I'm talking too fast here. And I'm going to take an actor off as well, related to Philadelphia, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, an all-time great comedic television show, Danny DeVito.
Yes. All-time short list. Short people. We've never done that.
Oh, that's a great one.
All right, I'm writing that down. That might be on tomorrow if we don't short people. Coming up, got to play you. George Norcross goes on Newsmax, the Democrat power broker, to attack the Philadelphia Eagles. Then at the end, though, Dan, he says, I still love the Eagles. I bleed green. I'm hoping they're in the Super Bowl. You may remember he was removed from the link with prejudice on Sunday because of that Israeli flag. Oh, you'll hear what he says about it. The Eagles have said, hey, you were removed because you were physically and verbally abusive. We're not going to have that. All right, we'll give you a little bit of that. Hit us with that Daniels at 855-839-1210. All right, Tom Giordano's show. We'll bring you George Norcross in a moment. I just saw on Mediaite, Roger Waters was on with Glenn Greenwald. Probably decided to come on with him. Wanted to ask this question. I get Roger Waters. I get the resume of what he's done, etc. But on this interview today, he denied knowing. He said, we can't know. The Israelis are making it up, what Hamas did. I tried to look at the art of a person, if possible, or if they're an athlete. I try to zone in on that. But you know what? This creep has crossed a line here. He really has. He's anti-Semitic. And now he's using the dodge, Roger Waters again, that we can't know what Hamas did. A friend of mine just witnessed from the tape. You'll see it on Mediaite, Dan. I know you just got that one. So, we'll give it a rest. With Waters? Oh, you got
No, I got Norcross. Sorry, I'm running one behind here, Dom.
I know. This is...
I'll get you at Waters here too as well.
But before you do that, though, can you divorce... Look, I don't think... There's almost no public figure, maybe Dolly Parton, who got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. If I'm in charge of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I don't know about that. Eminem is this year's class, the great Eminem. I'm not letting Taylor Swift in there. She's not a rock and roller.
She deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Now, my Hall of Fame is very, very tough. There would only be about half of the people in the Baseball Hall of Fame now, maybe 3/4. You're not getting in. Scott Rowland, a Hall of Famer. He's the very definition of the Hall of Good, not Hall of Fame. Really. So
Taylor Swift deserves to be in there, though. Yeah.
But even Dolly Parton knew she shouldn't be in that Hall of Fame. So we'll get to that.
Like ABBA's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well,
they're not rock and roll.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Blondie's rock and roll.
The great Eminem is not rock and roll.
Yeah.
I'd love to interview that guy. I just can't. I get it so much of what he's saying.
Marshall, take us back to 8 Mile.
Yeah, that's right. I get what he's saying. The music, the moment, the big moment, the whole thing. He's a competitor. Now, of course, he's socially abhorrent, but so here's a question, Dan. How far do we go at putting aside the baggage? Let's say that, like Tiger Woods. Hard for me. For Luke, he still loves Tiger Woods. It's too much. You know what type of guy he really is, that based upon what I can tell, I see his artistry. He's beyond belief, right? How much can you put up with, say it's a rock star, an Eagles player, or whatever? Maybe my tolerance level is low. I can't root for them. Not going to mess up the whole team. Waters, though, is a stone cold anti-Semite. He's claiming in this interview we'll play that just came down, we can't know what Hamas did. And by the way, he said they had every right to do it, whatever they did. Can you imagine? How can you sit there and listen to this guy's music? I would argue, Dan, a musician, I have less tolerance for it because part of their art is sensitivity, is all that, right? A football player or something, it's like, oh, God. But if they've, Michael Vick, I think Michael Vick's a redeemed guy. I could root for him. I've interviewed him, and that's my sense. But what he did to those animals, how could I root for Michael Vick, an Eagles quarterback at that point? At that point when he first came back, how could you?
I've dug myself out of the hole, and I'm ready to go with any clip, either one.
Okay, yeah, but I'm asking you to. Well, what's your line?
Yeah,
what's
it's tough because I always look at when we talk about this is Bill Cosby, because Bill Cosby did absolutely aberrant things, but also on the other side, for the black community, he showed for the first time on television, on primetime television, what it was to be a middle class, black family, middle high class black family. So you got to recognize Bill Cosby's greatness, I think, even though he did this kind of stuff. If you separate the art from the off the screen, so it's. A lot of times I find myself in today's world, it's tough because there's so much on the internet, so much in the past being dug up that I think if you talk about anyone, if you go look hard enough, you'll find something you don't like.
I can't root for Bill Cosby's art, or as a comedian, I can't sit there and laugh, though. I wouldn't. But I think he got a raw deal given the legal system as far as what he signed up and then what the woman did. That's where my support comes in. But to go to Bill Cosby's comedy,
yeah, if he was having a live
show,
show,
pretty tough. Yeah, that'd be pretty tough.
Like giving him money, I don't know.
So let's hear Waters, who I'd say is in the pantheon, top 100 all time, maybe with Pink Floyd. Would you agree? Top 100 at least?
Oh, I think much
top
higher
50,
than that. Maybe top 20.
Top 20.
Yeah.
Okay. Listen to what he did with Glenn Greenwald. And Greenwald, even, Dan, who, is, I like him, trying to give some space to him, but saying, are you kidding me? Listen to Roger Waters, who was featured at Penn's Palestine Writers Conference right before October 7th. Listen to what he just said.
What I'm asking about, though, is do you think what Hamas did on October 7th can be justified?
Well, we don't know what they did.
God.
Come on. God.
Was it justified for them to resist the occupation? Yeah. But again, it's what you said. It's the Geneva Conventions. They are absolutely legally and morally bound to resist the occupation since 1967. It's an obligation.
But are there limits on the way in which they can resist?
As I said in the statement that I put out after it, I said, if war crimes were committed, I condemn them. I don't care who it is.
And here we are now 3 weeks or so after. Do you think there's been evidence that's emerged that suggests they committed those?
There may have been individual things. What I was reading a news story this morning, which Grey Zone, our friend Max Blumenthal. So there's a long story which I read this morning, but Haaretz have finally come out with figures of how many people were actually killed and who they were
on that day.
On that day, yeah. And so probably the first 400 were Israeli military personnel. That is not a war crime.
No, clearly everyone thinks military officials and military targets or soldiers in Israel are
well, it depends if you believe
targets.
In the Geneva Conventions or not,
right?
Or the United Nations.
But what about targeting civilians or abducting them?
No, of course not. No, right. Of course I don't condone that. But the thing was thrown out of all proportion by the Israelis making up stories about beheading babies. They even got the president of the United States, dotard that he is, to claim that he had seen photographs
of the beheaded babies.
Yeah.
And then admitted that he actually didn't. Yeah.
I mean, it's. But what we do know is.
All right. Well, let's stop here. The revulsion building up. We need to do some unpacking. We do know it's not just goofy Biden and Glenn Greenwald. As much, Stan, as I like some things with Tucker Carlson, there are lines that are crossed here with this clown. It's a big interview, a big get with this anti-Semite. We do know what they did. And he said something there that Greenwald should have picked up on, Dan. I would have in a heartbeat. I'd be out of the chair right in his butt anyhow. And that is, this was not, he said some comment there and he moved past quickly, individuals. It wasn't individuals. That's the whole point. This was their tactic.
You don't like my interviewing style, them?
Yeah, this is their tactic. It's not just in the course of war, some outliers, savage people. This is what they wanted to do. They're proud of it. It was the tactic. They put it on social media. We have it on their body cams. We have it on their social media. This is what they will always do. This is what they will continue to do. And for Penn to allow this clown to come in, Roger Waters, with the Palestine writer, with these other anti-Semites, that's the original sin. It's not just post-October 7th. So we're 1 month in, and we're still continuing with these people as if we're dealing with rationality and civility. We're not. He's an anti-Semite. There's no getting around saying you don't know. What kind of evidence do we need? And then as he gets drawn out, he does know, and he thinks, yeah, he can justify this because of what's been done to the poor Palestinians. You had something?
A little off topic here, but you send me often Glenn Greenwald clips, and is there a more dweebier member of media than him?
All right, I want to take a quick call. We have a guest, but I want to get Bill a shot here in West Grove. All right, Bill, give me your immediate reaction.
Hey, Dominic, Roger Waters doesn't really deserve a platform of any kind. I partied with these guys back in the 60s and stuff, and I played with Sting and Page and Plant and everybody, and I listened to you guys about Dan's, comments on music and stuff, and I enjoy it. But at the same time, I really know what went down. He's always been hung up with stuff, and it shows in his music, and they shouldn't give him any platform at all because he's biased, he's liberal, and hateful human being. He could never get along with David or Rick or Nick Mason and stuff. He's one of the reasons Floyd broke up. He's a hard individual to get to be with, Dom. Very hard to get along with.
I hear you. Well, thank you, Bill. I'm glad that you were a listener.
Dom, I'm with you all the time, and I'll always be glad to come in and comment on any of the past rock and roll. I partied with these guys at the Electric Factory back in the day, man, and with the Who and everybody, and I know them all, man. And
all right, you guys got some stories, Dom.
We'll be calling on you there too.
Yeah, Bill,
particularly, don't tell Dan any of those groupie stories. All right, we'll talk with really great writer Dan Senior, former Defense Department official. He's got a new book out about what motivates. Let's put it this way. What is the spirit of Israel? And let's contrast that with the spirit of Hamas here that we just had with Roger Waters. What's their spirit? Well, Israel is about life. Hamas and their Confederates, they're the spirit of death. Can you imagine Penn bringing Roger Waters in? And you just heard him with Glenn Greenwald. My God. I can separate in some cases. I may not like the artist. I can put up with a little bit, but not anything like this. All right, phone lines are 855-839-1210. That's how you get on board. We'll get to some Daniels, too, like Dan, our guest, coming up here on the Dom Giordano program. First, though, Rescue Natural Supplements' unprecedented Black Friday sale is back again. This year, the savings are bigger and better than ever. Right now, they're slashing prices on all supplements with discounts ranging from 50 to an incredible 80% off the total cost. Rescue has a wide array of products to address your health needs, including immunity and cholesterol support, heart health, and natural energy enhancers. That's 50% off omega-3s, probiotics, and a lot more. One more thing. This Rescue Black Friday sale will run the entire month of November. So shop today at res-q.com, res-q.com, or call a Rescue product consultant at 800-26-ALIVE, 800-262-5483. Again, all Rescue supplements are 50 to 80% off during the entire month of November. So why wait? Start shipping now and shopping at res-q.com. All right, Dom Giordano, a show. Dan Senor has been my guest before. I think the book, Startup Nation, that's the sense I got when I went to Israel the one time. The new book, though, The Genius of Israel, we talk about how timely. What is it that, routinely now, look, I know surveys are surveys, that when these surveys on happiness come up, Israel is one of the happiest places in the world. How could that be when you're surrounded by what we saw on October 7th? Dan is with us here on Talk Radio 1210. Hey, Dan, welcome back. Another great book. Very timely.
Thank you, Dom. Thanks for having me.
Your background a little bit, too, other than as a writer. You were in the Defense Department. When? What administration?
2003, 2004, the George W. Bush administration. I worked in the U.S. Senate in the 1990s, and then I was went out of government and got roped back in after September 11th. I was asked to join the administration after September 11th, as it looked like we were heading into Afghanistan and Iraq, and I took this position in the Pentagon that had me based in Qatar during major combat operations, then a little bit in Kuwait, and then I deployed to Baghdad with the civilian reconstruction team and lived in Baghdad for 15 months.
So, Dan, to the point I was just making, we played Roger Waters, who was here in Philadelphia at Penn. It caused a stir. And another interview we just did today, post-Hamas. And how could Israel, what is it, that's the secret sauce, where in the happiness rankings, and what I saw there, people were not overly, worried every day about their security, given what we know, and we know even more now.
Yeah. So it's a great question, and one that Saul Singer, my co-author who lives in Jerusalem, have been wrestling with. People feel, first of all, we tend to think happiness comes with life is great, life is simple, life is luxurious, life is about full of convenience and no friction and no dysfunction. And when we dug into the research, we found no, people can deal with difficulty. People can deal with challenges. People can deal with friction. What makes them unhappy and makes them feel like they're leading an unsatisfactory life is that they feel that they don't have a purpose. They don't have meaning in their life. They don't have a sense of ownership of their life, of their community, of their country, that their role matters. Sebastian Junger, who's this longtime war correspondent, not Jewish, who has spent a lot of time with American military all over the world in war zones. We interviewed him for the book. He has this great quote where he says, people don't mind hard work. What they mind is not feeling necessary. And the problem with the modern world, the modern wealthy world, is we've made people feel not necessary. Israel is an exception to that. In Israel, everybody feels necessary. And we write about different stages in Israeli history where you see the way the country calls on every part of the society, so everyone feels that they have a part. And you're seeing that right now, post-October 7th, where the whole country, the reserve calling up these reserves. The IDF normally overshoots in the reserve call-ups. They call up too many people because they never know what turnout is going to be like. The actual turnout has been about between 120 to 150%. Everyone's turning out. Everyone is necessary or wants to feel necessary. And so if you look at the way Israeli society is organized, and I can go through some of these parts of Israeli society, it's all geared around everybody feeling like they're a part of it. They're not going into the little echo chambers. They're not leading atomized lives. They feel that they're part of something. They're part of their family. They're part of their community, and they feel part of their country, and they feel that they have a role in it. That makes them happy, even in the middle of a war.
Yeah, well, that's what I witnessed too. That's exactly it, Dan. So what about, though, and you answer this, the hurdle of domestically, Netanyahu, the Supreme Court, all these protests? It seems to be a lot of agita there. How is that united in one purpose?
Yeah, it's a great question. So on October 6th, what you saw in Israel was the peak, or maybe the depth, I'd call it, actually, the depth of Israeli division, right? October 6th, meaning from basically January 2023 through October 6th, it was the depth of Israeli division, which means Israelis disagree deeply. Now, when you look at Israeli society and you say it's really polarized, And it looks no different than polarization in the United States or polarization in the UK, pre and post Brexit, or the polarization in France, where hundreds of thousands of people are storming the streets, violent protests over the last year. There's political polarization all over the world. So why is Israel different? And what we argue in the book is Israel's not immune to political polarization. The difference is Israel has these societal shock absorbers built into its system, built into its society, that even when they disagree intensely, they don't ultimately go off the edge. They don't tear the country apart. So what are some of those societal shock absorbers? One, national service, the military. Almost every Israeli during formative years in their lives, 18, 19, 20, 21, have to serve in the military. And we argue in the book that that is a much better experience than the kind of experiences our kids are getting these days in American college campuses. In the National Service Program, you develop great leadership and management experience, and we go through what that is in the book, what kind of experiences these kids are getting, and you are integrated with people from all walks of life. So in your unit, you are dealing with, there's sons of a cab driver and a son of a billionaire. And doesn't matter. You all have to serve. And they serve for 3 years or longer. And then they have reserve duty until into their 40s. And they're getting together every year for a couple of weeks to be with that unit. So here are people who live in completely, some secular, some religious, some affluent, some living in homes of poverty, some Jews from North Africa and some Jews from the United States. They're all living together, forced to live together. The former Israeli IDF chief of staff, General Kochavi, said to us, we interviewed him, and he said, when you're in the hull of a tank together, there is no polarization, right? You in other words, you can disagree, but you realize you're part of the same fight and you're part of the same family. So the military experience brings people together. The Shabbat, we write in the book, we call, we have a chapter called Thanksgiving Every Week, where we lay out that Israelis every Friday night have the equivalent of a Thanksgiving, where a family gets together, usually multiple generations, every Friday night, from secular to religious. Over 70% of Israelis celebrate Shabbat. They come together as a family, but while they're having that experience, they know the entire country, or most of the country, is doing the same thing. So there's a sense of a ritual for your family, and that experience is being shared by the entire country.
Well,
now,
Dan, I witnessed that. When we landed in Jerusalem, I think it was around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was like, my God, what's happening? Everybody's getting out of Dodge. I mean,
right, and the whole country shuts down.
And this is Jerusalem, yeah.
Right. Right. The whole country shuts down. And so I say to my American friends, I say, look, communities don't create ritual. Ritual create communities. When there's a ritual, communities get formed around it. So I say to my American friends, tell me one ritual that you experience with your family on a regular basis, that that not only you're experiencing with your family, but the whole country is experiencing it. And they all say Thanksgiving, which is why we call it the Thanksgiving Every Week. So I say, okay, Thanksgiving. That's good. By the way, I agree with that. That's once a year. I said, give me a second one. Now, usually they get stuck on the second one, and then they can't come up with one. But what they usually say for the second one is the Super Bowl.
Yes.
That's Super Bowl parties, which is I know I'm a huge football fan, so I get it. I'm into Super Bowls. So let's just take that. That's twice a year. I said, imagine that kind of experience where the whole country is experiencing something at the same time, along with their families, every single week. So it suddenly, again, brings people together, slows people down, gets people around the table who normally don't agree with each other. And you feel like you're part of not just your own little family project or your own little individual career track. You get off the treadmill and say, wait, I'm part of a national experience in a national project, and I own a piece of it. This is mine, and I can shape it, and I can touch history, as one of the people we interviewed in the book says. In Israel, every Israeli feels that they can shape the country's history. They can touch history. That gives them a sense of belonging and ownership, which again also contributes to happiness.
Well, without a doubt. You mentioned too in here, we constantly see this, and I think it's a real thing in America, Dan, loneliness. And I'm sure there is some in Israel. I mean, I was only there for 8 days, but I think the things you're mentioning, they pervade against that overwhelming feeling of isolation and loneliness.
Yeah. So that is exactly right. Israel has among the lowest numbers of loneliness anywhere in the world, anywhere in the OECD. Israel has the lowest reported rates of mental health crises, teen mental health. So the CDC, this really broke my heart. I'm the parent of teenagers. A few months before the book came out, the CDC came out with a big report saying there's a crisis, not just of teen mental health in this country, in the United States, but of teen suicides. Now, I never thought I would say epidemic of teen suicide. It's just horrific to think. And it's a real thing. And it predated the pandemic of teens actually taking their lives or trying to take their lives. We went and looked at the data. Israel has the lowest teen suicide rate in the OECD, meaning in the Western world. So why is that, right? So some experts say, well, the reason there's a teen mental health and teen suicide crisis in the United States, like Derek Thompson, who's a writer for the Atlantic, who's written extensively about this, he quotes all these psychologists who say, well, look at what these teenagers are dealing with in the United States, right? They're dealing with constant worries about climate change, constant worries about gun violence, constant worries about political polarization, and they spend too much time scrolling on their phones, doom scrolling. Reading about bad stuff. I was like, okay, so Israelis are no less subjected to hysteria about climate change. Israeli kids. Israelis certainly know a thing or two about gun violence, right? Because at 18 years old, most of them go serve and they actually have guns and they are put in dangerous situations. And as we've seen on October 7th, they're subjected to real threats and they know that their parents live in fear of getting that knock on the door that their child has been killed. And many of them have friends. We write about these experiences, these friend groups where one of the friends, teenagers, has lost someone due to terrorism or in combat, and how these friendships form among young people. You want to talk about violence having an effect on your psyche? Israel has it in extremis. And Israel has political polarization, as you said, based on what we saw over the last year. And Israeli kids have smartphones, so they have access to social media. So that cannot be the explanation for teen mental health, I think, crisis. I think the reason Israel has eluded much of the teen mental health crisis is because young people feel connected to one another. They feel connected to the country. They feel they have a role in the country, and that gives them meaning. And that sense of meaning and purpose, and they're part of a country with a purpose, is the ultimate antidote to loneliness and, feeling disconnected and leading an atomized life.
Absolutely. Dan, again, I love Startup Nation. That's exactly the feeling. I broadcast out of the university in Haifa, and I had this young woman showing me an X-ray machine. It was going to be in rural areas, the size of a Coke can. Of course, she had a story about Bill Clinton that we'll put on the air then. I won't go through now when he saw it. She was beautiful. And I just had a sense there in MIT of this relentless innovation and discovery, what they've done to the desert, et cetera, and the sadness of seeing this is just not going to break through, at least unless you differ with the other side here. Do you differ? Do you think this can make its way through to helping resolve some of this?
Look, I think what we're seeing, you mean right now with the current reaction to what's happening? Yeah, I think what we're experiencing right now, sadly, is an expression of the oldest hatred, which is anti-Semitism. It's the oldest hatred. It goes back 2,000 years. You type into Google the word anti-Semitism and plus add the words of any century, the 19th century, the 18th century, the 17th century, and you will see massive waves of anti-Semitism in every century in history. And that is why, anti-Semitism has been so persistent, and we're seeing it now. It's being expressed in a different way, but it's the same phenomenon. I have a podcast in which I recently, the last couple of episodes, have tried to explain the origins of anti-Semitism. And it really is this new thing, this new expression of it, whether it's tearing down the posters of the children hostages, whether it's chanting from the river to the sea, which you translate to, that means eliminating all Jews in Israel, the highest concentration of Jews in the world. I mean, these are just modern versions of expressing a very old hatred. And I just think the problem, Dom, is that I think people tend to think of Israel as the all-powerful, and people simplistically want to see a frame of David's versus Goliath's, and that they want to believe that it's all about the powerless and the powerful, and they've decided that Israel is the powerful against the powerless. When in reality is, if you look at the region Israel lives in, it has a genocidal terror organization on its southern border, as we learned on October 7th. It has a genocidal terrorist organization on its northern border with Hezbollah, and you have other groups who have similar agendas. And then you have Iran nearby that is funding and arming and orchestrating a lot of this. Israel is a powerful country, but relative to that, what country in the world has been subjected to being surrounded by that and have those forces arrayed against it? None. Israel's the only one in the world. It is absolutely relative to those threats, the powerless, and we have to start getting people to understand the bigger picture here. This is not just about Israel versus Hamas or Israel and the Palestinians. If you believe that, you have a very one-dimensional understanding of what's going on.
Absolutely. Dan, thank you so much. The book, The Genius of Israel, The Surprising Resilience of a Divided Nation in a Turbulent World, available all over the place. And boy, you talk about heavy hitters, even in the mainstream media with this, Dan. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate your having spent time in Israel. It's terrific.
Thank you, Dan.
All right. Thanks.
Dan Senor here on Talk Radio 1210. Dan is our side question today. Let me tell you about FanDuel, though. We'll take your calls coming up. As the weather gets colder, the NFL stays hot on FanDuel in partnership with Valley Forge Casino. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Make your own bets. Choose from tons of pre-made bets in the app. You don't have to be a football expert to do any of this. Same game parlays, they give you that chance for the bigger payout. It's a really easy app to use, wide range of betting options. All you have to do is this. Visit FanDuel.com/Dom. FanDuel.com/Dom, D-O-M. FanDuel Sportsbook is the official partner of 1210 WPHT. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. You have to be 21 plus, present in Pennsylvania. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame moneyline wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Dom Giordano's show. And Dan, that plays into the side question today, what we're looking for, that song.
Yeah, it's Dan and Shay. We're looking for Dan's, Danny's, Daniels, last name of Daniels, real or fictional. It can be a product. It can be a name of a song, movie. It can be whatever. It just has to include the name Dan in it somewhere.
Let's go to Walt and Delco. All right, Walt, what do you have on the side question today?
Dan Faulkner.
All right, yeah, that's definitely a good one. Danny Faulkner. We'll put that on the list. That's what we'll be looking for. All right, coming up, we're going to talk with David O. He ran a great campaign as far as there's no infrastructure coming from the Republican Party. And we'll get his thoughts on that campaign. He also told the National Review what he thought of the local Republican Party. And then I want to put on your radar screen a new police commissioner. Listen to what he wrote, just a snippet of it. He's talking about out there in the township of Marple or Marple Township, how many, and I'm looking at the mugshots just in October, Philadelphia residents and or people from Ecuador, he has in here, came to shoplift in Marple. And guess what? In one case, it was only $110. They went after them like they would go after if you robbed $1 million. That's what's going to happen. Are the suburbs, and he calls out Philadelphia and Larry Krasner, are the suburbs going to find a way to push back against Krasner? Trust me on this, it's going to take the entire area to fight this guy. You're not going to do it just because you wish it. He's sitting there rubbing his glasses and saying, I'm going to do whatever I want. We're realizing he affects not just Philadelphia. You can't ward Krasnerland into Philadelphia. He wants more living space. Let him go 10 years from now. He'll be out there in rural Pennsylvania. What the hell happened? Krasner. That's what happened. Krasnerland.
He's all over.
I coined it, and that's what it is. You can't fence it in. You got to fight it. That's all next year on Talk Radio 1210. Let me tell you about batteries plus bulbs. My buddy Roy over there, what a visionary. He and his staff of creative advisors, his team, they can help you with anything electronic that you're looking, even in business or just a person. You need a smartphone repair, custom battery packs, on-site lighting audits, creative solutions to something, and they just say, no, you're going to have to get a completely different system. Call Roy and his creative advisors there at 856-638-0778. This team will get you better answers. Now, Roy started the first batteries plus bulb in the tri-state area in Mount Laurel, New Jersey over 17 years ago. Customer service. Every time he talks about this. But that doesn't mean just, hey, how you doing? It means we know something. We're going to help you with this. We're going to put you in good hands, and we're going to get an answer for you. They also carry extensive inventory of batteries and lighting products. They can solve just about any problem. 2 big stores, one in Mount Laurel on Route 73, the other on Tilton Road in Northfield. The phone number again, call them now, 856-638-0778. All right, the big day is here, Election Day, and somebody over the years that has been a major guest here in his role as councilman at large, and he's crafted quite a different ground game and group of people to come out and vote. It's something you would write about, but I think he could have used more infrastructure help from the alleged Republican Party in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Joining us is Councilman at Large and candidate for mayor, David O. Hey, David, welcome back on Election Day. Thanks for joining us. How you feeling at this point?
Oh, thank you very much, Dom. I feel good. I feel very good. Things are coming in very well, for our campaign. Of course, it's only, 1 o'clock, and we have all the way till 8 o'clock, and things can change very quickly. But, for the people who want change in this city, which is a lot of people, they want the world turned right side up from what it's been the past few years. This is a chance to make it happen, and a lot of people are doing that.
David, National Review, you gave quite an interview. They did a nice job on talking about some of the bigger races, particularly in our area, and about the Working Families Party. And they didn't go into the detail that we have, but it is quite an unusual, amazing thing. And I've seen it. I've probably been at 25 to 30 events over the years or more with you. How many events a year do you do with these various immigrant groups and just various public groups, would you say?
Oh, I would say probably about 100.
I think that's on the low side. I'm taking the over on that. If I followed you around, it's amazing. And
Well,
you've crafted.
I should say at least 100.
Right,
I
at
mean,
least,
there
yeah.
are
Yeah.
probably, there's a lot of different groups. I mean, probably over 60 different groups. I do things with them throughout the year. And then sometimes it's combined into like the Latino community overall, or, the Russian speaking community overall, something like that. So it's hard for me to count because it's just something I do. And I don't actually take a summer vacation because some legislators kind of take the summer off. I just work straight through the summer. So it's hard for me to count.
Well, again, from my experience, I think I do quite a bit, but nothing like this. You have crafted this group. And one of the things, whatever happens today, I wanted to underline that you said early on with these various immigrant groups, some of whom are flourishing, and they open up these shopping areas, blocks of them in places like Southwest Philly is one that I think of. They can't understand why criminals are treated with kid gloves, and yet the regulations on people bringing those thriving businesses to Philadelphia, if we use the regulators and went after criminals that way, we'd be a lot better off. I mean, isn't that a focus of your campaign?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we have a lot of folks, born and raised in Philadelphia and our surrounding areas, U.S. citizens, and we're frustrated. But then you have someone who came from another country and they just feel like they're in Mars. Like, what happened here? Like, people just walk in and steal stuff. People are just committing crimes. And if I try to do something about it, I'm the one who gets in trouble. I could be arrested. I could be prosecuted. How come I became the bad guy? And they don't understand it. It's so confusing. And I have to tell them, well, it's not always like this, but in recent years, it has become this. We've started to elect people who feel like they can make whatever rules they want and apply them to whomever they want based on very subjective views. It's not the colorblind, fair, and equitable treatment of all under a written set of laws.
David, too, I'm looking at National Review, and they had quite the locals didn't seem to get this. You talked about the Republican Party, which you've been going back and forth with, and I've never had to deal with the current crop in that manner, but from afar, I see it very clearly. And you said there's no outreach, no diversity to all these groups that you know about, et cetera. They took two white guys, throw them out there for 1 week or so, last 3 weeks in these diverse neighborhoods and expect to do well. Why? Well, I mean, what is it? They just coasting and looking for the crumbs, not the big prize?
Well, in all honesty, it's not just the Republicans; it's the Democrats as well. Basically, what happens is, like in today's election, less than 300,000 people are going to vote for mayor in a city of 1.6 million, and so everyone focuses on the people that they believe are going to vote to the amount. In other words, typically, if there's 300,000 people voting, you need 150,001 to win. So you're focused on 150,001. But what happens is, over many years of doing the same thing, it becomes the party infrastructure or the party or the organization that is supposed to deliver the vote that becomes important, and the voter themselves become less and less important, let alone people that are perceived not to be voters. But you can't really tell because, in other words, Haitian Americans or Chinese Americans or Mexican Americans, they may all be voting. It's just nobody exactly knows. And so one of the problems about our city, because we have large groups of people in our city that are so productive and they contribute so much, but politicians typically just disregard them all in all. And so that's what happens. So it's not just the Republican Party. It is the Democratic Party and, quite frankly, the Working Families Party and third-party groups as well. So they are losing the opportunity of gaining support from voters, and they're losing the opportunity to engage entire communities that want to be heard. And very much, as you said, they want safe streets, they want accurate taxation, they want lower taxes to be competitive, they want good schools, and they want common sense in government. And many of them are some of our strongest advocates for safe, clean neighborhoods in Philadelphia.
Well, so you still believe the notion then that this city is not radicalized. But tonight, if I had to just put on my hat as an analyst, I would predict that the Working Families Party is a lock to win one seat. And if I had to bet a pizza on it, I'd say they're going to win both seats. If that happens, what does that tell us?
Well, it tells us that basically the Republican Party of Philadelphia has got to do a much better job of communicating to people what we stand for, what we've contributed, and what our solutions are, and do it in a way that that people understand. And they can't understand you if they don't see you. They don't trust you if you've never broken bread with them or you never made an effort to find what is in our common interests. If you've never lent a helping hand or asked for help. Half of what I do is ask people for help. Would you help us, clean up this block? Would you help us raise money for these children? Will you help us, support law enforcement in Philadelphia? Will you help us, lobby for, safe public transportation? And they come out and they support.
Yeah, without a doubt. So, David, the mystery parting area for you, the mysterious thing, according to the Inquirer, where is David O going to be? You're a man of mystery here at the end. Where's David O going to be tonight? There are no plans. I know Sherelle Parker's at the sheep medals thing. I've gotten 10 invitations to that, but no O invitation. Is it like a scavenger hunt? Are we going to have to find you? There are going to be breadcrumbs out there.
No, it's funny. But see, the thing is, I never have a victory celebration.
Okay.
I've never done that because honestly, from my perspective, one, I'd rather spend every penny on trying to win the race than celebrate a victory I don't know I'm going to have. The other thing is, usually I just do a watch party. And it's not a big thing because, again, if I had any money, it would be towards winning the election, not celebrating the race. So I really have just a small thing, and it's for, the folks that really put a lot of effort into it. And, I don't have the huge amount of support that she does. And at the same time, I don't have like a whole effort to keep the status quo in place. The folks that are for me, they want reform. They want good government. They want to cut out the fat of Philadelphia's politics. So we're going to do a little thing, just watch the returns. And, the thing about it is that for much of the Philadelphia press, they've assumed very early on that I had no shot at winning. So they weren't really interested, in whatever I was doing. But things are different today as people are getting idea now that I have a solid chance of winning. And so they're becoming a little more interested in where I'm going to be and what I'm going to do. But it doesn't change my plans. My plans are my plans.
I hear you. Well, David, thank you. You've just tapped into something here that is sometimes the right thing and the politically right thing are the same. And that is how you've broken bread with all these different communities, people who really are the backbone of Philadelphia if they can stay here and hopefully not have the craziness that we've had where criminals are mollycoddled and they are overregulated. So good luck in the next, 7 hours or so. I'm saying 110,
Yes.
7 hours, because, in Philadelphia, you vote early, vote often, and vote late if you have to, is the motto. So,
Yeah.
David, thank you, and we'll talk with you again soon.
All right. Thank you very much, Don. Take care.
All right, David O here. Dan, the Inquirer's got people out there tracking. Where is this guy going to be?
Yeah.
Why is he not having a victory party or at least a party here tonight? Well, he just gave the explanation right here.
Yeah.
All right, coming up, we got the side question today, which is give us that all-time Daniel, fictional or real, or Dan, or Daniel's last name. I'll let that one out there for now. One of feature, and he's going to be here in about an hour, 2:00. Over the years, Pat Malloy. Is there anybody better? I think he ought to be either Pat Malloy or McVeigh, whichever one does the first interview, ought to be the police commissioner in Philadelphia. They'd be great. One in Bensalem, the other in Abington. But we're going to talk